Have you ever said something, and the moment it left your lips, you wished you could reel it back in? Maybe it was something small, a sharp tone during a tense moment, a story you shared that came out wrong, or a promise you made that you couldn't quite keep. At our age, words carry more weight than ever, not just because we've lived long enough to understand their power, but because people are listening more closely now. Your words reflect your wisdom, your values, and your character. That's why today I want to talk about something that quietly shapes our relationships, our reputation, and even how we feel about ourselves, the way we speak. As we get older, many things change. Our bodies slow down, energy levels fluctuate. We might find ourselves becoming more reflective, more intentional. And that's exactly the mindset that makes this the perfect time to sharpen one of the most powerful tools we'll ever have, our words. In this video, we're going to explore 6 habits that help you communicate with clarity, calm, and strength. These aren't tricks or tactics. They're deeper than that. They're habits you can build to make sure that when you speak with presence, with wisdom, with authority. These habits help your voice command respect without needing to raise it. They bring peace where others bring chaos. And most importantly, they help you feel proud of the way you show up in the world, in every conversation, every interaction, every moment. Let's start with the first one, and it might just be the most common trap of all. Have you ever met someone who just couldn't stop talking about what they knew? They shared every book they'd read, every title they'd held, every success they'd ever had, and you couldn't help but feel a little tired. Maybe even a little defensive. It's not that they weren't smart. It's that their need to prove it overwhelmed everything else. That's the thing about knowledge. The more you feel the need to prove it, the less powerful it becomes. Some of the wisest people I've met in my life never needed to say, "Look how smart I am." You could just feel it in the way they listened, in the calm, measured way they spoke, in the questions they asked, not just the answers they gave. When you avoid boasting about what you know, you give others the space to connect with you, not compete with you. You invite conversation instead of intimidation. There's a quote I've always loved. Just as nature takes no credit for the beauty it creates, neither should we take credit for what we've learned. And when you think about that, isn't it true? The most impressive people don't have to declare it. They live it. Let me give you a little story. There was a man, very successful in his field, built his career from the ground up, sharp, capable, articulate. But every room he walked into, he walked in with a goal: to impress. He'd talk about his resume, the awards on his shelf, the conversations he'd had with important people. At first, folks admired him, but over time, something shifted. They started to pull back, not because he wasn't smart, but because they felt like he was more interested in being admired than being understood. Eventually, a colleague said something that stuck with him. "You're one of the smartest people here, but your words are pushing people away." That moment hit hard, and it changed everything. He learned that knowledge is not a trophy, it's a tool, and the way you use it says far more than the facts you know. So if you find yourself tempted to speak just to show what you know, pause. Ask yourself, am I speaking to connect, or am I speaking to impress? Sometimes the most impactful way to show your intelligence is to say less and listen more. Listening shows confidence. It shows you don't need the spotlight to feel secure. And over time, it earns more respect than any list of accomplishments ever could. Now, once you've mastered that, once you begin to let your wisdom speak through presence, not performance, you'll find it becomes easier to hear others too. And that brings us to the next habit. Never dismiss another person's opinion. I know, that one's easier said than done, especially when someone says something you strongly disagree with. Maybe it sounds off base. Maybe it's something you've already tried before. Or maybe it just doesn't line up with your beliefs or values. But let me ask you something. Have you ever shared an idea, maybe with family or in a meeting, or even just casually, and someone brushed it off right away? Didn't let you finish? Shrugged and said, "That'll never work"? How did that feel? Even if it was a small thing, it leaves a sting, doesn't it? It makes you feel like your voice didn't matter. And when that happens often enough, you stop sharing altogether. Now imagine how many people feel that every day, just because someone else didn't have the patience to hear them out. You see, being a strong communicator isn't just about the words you speak. It's about the space you create for others to speak too. There was another man I knew, confident, respected, ran his own business for decades. But he had one blind spot. In meetings, he'd shut ideas down almost instantly. Not because he meant to be rude. He just thought he already had the answers. To him, being decisive meant moving fast. Why waste time on bad ideas? But over time, his team started to shrink back. They stopped offering input. Meetings got quiet. Progress slowed. And he didn't understand why. Until one day, a younger team member nervously offered a solution to a tough problem, something unconventional. The man almost interrupted, but something stopped him. He decided to listen, just this once. And wouldn't you know it, the idea worked. It opened a door he hadn't seen. That moment changed him. He began to understand that when you shut down others, you don't just silence noise. You might be silencing brilliance. Letting someone speak doesn't mean you agree. It just means you're open to learning. And even if their opinion is off the mark, you still gain insight into how they think, what they value, how they see the world. Listening is one of the purest forms of respect you can offer, especially now in a world where so many people are just waiting for their turn to talk, not truly listening at all. And here's the truth. No matter how much we've lived or how much we've learned, we don't have all the answers. None of us do. And when we act like we do, we block ourselves from growth. There's a line I once read that I never forgot. It is impossible to learn that which you think you already know. Isn't that something? So, the next time someone offers an idea, especially one that rubs you the wrong way, try this. Instead of thinking, "That's wrong," ask yourself, "What can I learn from this?" Even if the answer is small, even if it's just insight into someone else's thinking, that's still valuable. That's still growth. And when you start to listen more, not only do you grow, but people start to trust you more. They feel heard. They feel safe. And that changes everything. In families, in friendships, in community. Let your words build people up, not shut them down. Now, with these first two habits under your belt, choosing humility over boasting and curiosity over judgment, you're already on your way to mastering something truly powerful. A kind of speech that uplifts, inspires, and strengthens every room you walk into. And with that foundation, we're ready to keep going. When you begin to speak with more humility and listen with more openness, something shifts inside. Conversations become less about winning and more about understanding. Less about needing to be right and more about being real. But there's another habit, often overlooked, that quietly affects the way others feel in your presence and how you feel about yourself. It's this: knowing when to keep your complaints to yourself. Now, let's be honest, life isn't always easy. You've probably seen your fair share of hardship, disappointment, and frustration. And sometimes talking about it helps. Getting things off your chest can bring relief. But here's the thing. There's a difference between sharing to find clarity and complaining without a purpose. Think back to a time when someone you know just wouldn't stop complaining. Maybe it was about the weather, or the government, or their bad knee, or the same coworker every week. At first, you might nod and try to empathize. But over time, if there's never a solution, never a shift, just the same old venting, what happens? You start to tune out, you avoid their calls, you feel drained just being around them. Now ask yourself, have you ever been that person? It's easy to fall into the habit, especially when life feels out of your control. But here's what happens when we complain, just to release pressure. We end up spreading the very negativity we're trying to get rid of. There was a man, juggling work, family, bills, and all the pressures of a busy life. From the outside, he looked like he had it all together. But inside, he felt overwhelmed. His way of coping? He talked about everything that was going wrong. Every small setback, every little annoyance. Out it came. First to his wife, then his friends, then even co-workers at lunch. He wasn't trying to be negative, he just wanted to be heard. But slowly, people began pulling back. Not because they didn't care, but because they felt like his words weren't going anywhere. They weren't building anything. They were just noise. One day, a friend gently said, "I get that things are hard, but what are you doing about it?" That question stopped him because in truth he hadn't been doing anything except talking. And it was in that quiet realization that he began to change. It's not that you can never express frustration. It's that when you do, ask yourself, is this leading somewhere? Is it helping me see things clearer? Is it bringing me closer to a solution? Or am I just replaying the same story, hoping someone else will carry the weight for me? Here's something worth remembering. You have more power than you think. Maybe not over the world around you, but definitely over the world within you. Your thoughts, your focus, your attitude. That's yours to shape. There's a beautiful line that goes like this. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You see, when we complain about what we can't control, the traffic, the rain, the past, we give those things more power than they deserve. But when we shift focus to what we can do, even if it's small, we begin to reclaim our energy. If the line is long at the store, maybe that's a moment to practice patience. If the weather's bad, maybe it's a chance to slow down and rest. If someone disappoints you, maybe it's an opportunity to set better boundaries. Here's a little trick. Next time you feel yourself about to complain, pause and ask, what can I do about this? If the answer is something actionable, great, go do it. If not, release it. Let it be. Don't let it take more from you than it already has. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't complain. It's simply shift the way you see the situation. Not, why does this always happen to me? But what might this be teaching me? That kind of thinking doesn't just change your conversations. It changes your life. Now, let's talk about another habit that's deeply tied to trust, and one that becomes more important the older we get: being careful with the promises we make. We live in a world full of fast words, quick yeses, instant commitments. But as time goes on, you start to realize something. Not every promise needs to be made, and not every thought needs to be said out loud. If you've ever been let down by someone who didn't follow through, you know how much it stings. Maybe they said they'd call and never did. Maybe they offered help but disappeared when you needed them most. Maybe they made a big promise that faded the moment things got inconvenient. Now be honest. Have you ever been on the other side of that? It often comes from a good place. You want to be helpful. You want to be liked. You want to be dependable. So, you say yes, even when you're tired, even when your schedule is already packed, even when, deep down, you know you probably can't keep the commitment. But here's the hard truth. Every time we make a promise we don't keep, we chip away at something sacred, our credibility. There's a line that says, say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. That means be thoughtful, be clear, be honest with yourself before you're honest with anyone else. Because our word isn't just noise, it's a bond, a reflection of who we are. When your words consistently match your actions, people don't just hear you, they believe you, they trust you. And that kind of trust isn't easy to rebuild once it's lost. So how do we avoid making promises we can't keep? Start by slowing down. You don't have to respond immediately. Take a breath. Think. Ask yourself, do I truly have the time or energy for this? Am I saying yes because I want to, or because I feel pressured to? It's okay to say no. In fact, people respect you more when you're honest about your limits. And when you do say yes, make it count. Keep your word, even if it's inconvenient, even if no one would fault you for backing out. Those are the moments when your integrity becomes unshakable. And beyond promises, watch how you speak in everyday situations. A casual, "I'll be there." A quick, "I'll take care of it" can mean a lot to someone. If you say it, do it. Let your consistency be your reputation. You don't have to talk big to be respected. You don't have to make grand gestures to be admired. Often it's the quiet, steady people, the ones who mean what they say and say what they mean, who carry the most weight. So remember this. Not every yes is kind. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for others and yourself is to speak with intention and act with care. And when you start to live this way, choosing your words thoughtfully, owning your commitments, and letting go of the need to speak just to speak, people notice. You begin to carry a quiet power, not loud, not showy, but strong and steady and deeply respected. There's a moment that comes after you start to take your words seriously, when you begin to notice just how much power you really have. Not over others, not in a controlling way, but over yourself, over the tone you set, the presence you carry, and the impact you leave behind in every conversation. And part of that power comes from being able to do something many people struggle with their whole lives: admitting when you're wrong. It might seem like a small thing, but let's be honest. It's one of the hardest habits to build. There's something about saying, "I made a mistake." That can feel like swallowing a rock, especially when you've spent a lifetime being the one others relied on, the one who held it all together, the one with answers. But here's the truth. Owning your mistakes isn't weakness. It's maturity, it's strength, and it's the fastest way to gain lasting respect, both from others and from yourself. Think about it. We've all been around someone who couldn't admit when they were wrong. Maybe they made excuses, blamed others, changed the subject, deflected. And what did that do? It didn't make them look confident. It made them look insecure. It closed the door on honesty. It broke trust. Now think of someone who did admit their mistake, who said, "That one's on me," or "I missed something," or "You're right, I need to do better." What happened then? Walls came down, tension eased, respect went up. One of the best decisions you can make in this chapter of life is to let go of the need to be perfect. You've lived long enough to know that perfection isn't real, and pretending to have it all figured out just pushes people away. There was a man I once knew who led a big team, experienced, accomplished. But one day, he made a call on a project that backfired. It caused a delay and created frustration for everyone involved. At first, he wanted to justify it. The timeline was tight, the info wasn't clear, the others should have seen it too. But he stopped himself. He took a breath, and he said, "That one's on me. Here's what I missed, and here's how I'm going to fix it." And just like that, the tension disappeared. The team didn't lose faith in him. In fact, they trusted him more, because he showed that his ego didn't get in the way of the truth. There's a quote I keep close to heart. "If someone can show me where I am wrong, I will gladly change, for I seek the truth, and the truth never harmed anyone. When you choose to live by that mindset, your entire way of speaking shifts. You stop trying to defend every move. You stop trying to look flawless. And you start growing in real, meaningful ways. So the next time you make a mistake, and you will, because we all do, try this. Instead of looking for a way out, look for a way forward. Ask yourself, what part did I play? Then take ownership. Not just with words, but with actions. Make it right if you can. Learn from it if you can't. Either way, you walk away stronger. And the final habit, one that's become even more valuable in today's noisy world, is this. Protect your energy by not oversharing your future plans. Now that might sound surprising. After all, isn't it good to be open? To share your dreams and goals? Yes, but only with the right people and at the right time. Here's the problem with talking too much about what you're going to do. It can trick your brain into thinking you've already done something. That temporary hit of excitement from someone saying, "Wow, that sounds amazing," can replace the quiet, steady effort of actually doing it. And, without realizing it, you start to talk more than you act. Worse, when you share your plans too early, especially with people who don't fully support you. Their doubts and questions can plant seeds of uncertainty. One moment you're excited, the next you're second-guessing everything. All because someone said, "You sure you want to do that at your age?" Or, "That sounds risky." There's nothing wrong with seeking feedback. But be mindful of who you're inviting into your dreams. Not everyone will understand them. Not everyone needs to. There's a line I've always believed in. Don't explain your vision. Embody it. Let your actions speak. Let your progress tell the story. Let people see your commitment, not just hear about your intentions. There was a woman I met once, retired but far from done with life. She had this idea to start a small community garden. Nothing big, just a little space where neighbors could grow fresh produce and connect. She told a few friends early on, and the reactions weren't exactly encouraging. "That sounds like a lot of work. Who's going to help you with that? Don't you want to just relax?" She almost gave up, but instead she went quiet. She bought a few tools, found a piece of land, started small. Bit by bit, the garden came to life. And once people saw it blooming, they joined in. Not because she talked them into it, but because she showed them what was possible. When you protect your plans, you give them space to grow. You remove the noise, the pressure, the performance, and you return to what really matters, the work itself. You don't need to announce every move. You don't need applause before you've taken the first step. The most meaningful accomplishments in life often happen in silence, in the quiet moments, when no one's watching but you. So if you've got something you're building, an idea, a dream, a habit, nurture it privately. Water it with your actions. Let it grow strong enough to stand on its own. And when the time is right, the results will speak louder than any speech ever could. Now take a moment, wherever you are, sitting at your kitchen table, watching from the porch, maybe even listening while folding laundry, and ask yourself this: how do I want to be remembered in conversations? As someone who spoke with wisdom, with calm, with strength. Because here's the truth. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to talk often to be heard. You just need to speak with heart and live with intention. The 6 habits we've talked about, they aren't about becoming someone else. They're about uncovering the best of who you already are. Someone who listens with care, who speaks with kindness, who owns their words, who doesn't chase applause but earns quiet respect. That's real power. That's real growth. So the next time you sit down for a conversation, with your family, your friends, or even with yourself, remember this: your words shape more than just the moment. They shape your legacy. Speak slowly, listen deeply, promise carefully, learn openly, complain sparingly. and dream quietly until your actions are ready to speak. If something in this video touched your heart, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear how you're practicing these habits in your own life. And if you found this helpful, go ahead and give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to Strong Elderly Life for more content made just for you. You've lived through decades of change, of growth, of hard-earned lessons. You have nothing left to prove, but everything's still worth sharing. So speak with wisdom and let the rest follow. Here's to living your best life at any age. Thank you for watching.